you should probably expect spoilers.
"Cheers, love, the cavalry's here," said the overly British Cockney chick. "Who dat?" "It's TRACER." If you've been following me on Twitter, then you more than likely saw this coming sooner or later. How could I not start doing some episodes on the Overwatch cast, eh? It features such a rich, diverse selection of characters, ranging in all different shapes and sizes, dripping in distinctive and captivating personalities, and they all exist within a world that has a progressive story with character arcs crossing over one another's. Overwatch is basically the Street Fighter of first-person shooters, and fam, for real, I don't play FPSs that much. It's not my cup of milk and two sugars, but it just shows that personality goes a long way if it's able to get someone like me fanboying over a game in a genre that I don't usually invest my time into. The only problem is, as much as I am eager to review these guys, I'm actually stuck in a bit of an awkward place with it all, and that's mostly down to the way the game is being marketed. Overwatch builds its character stories through other official media such as animated shorts and webcomics, and since the game is so incredibly new, a lot of the content is not out yet. While we do know a fair bit about the characters already thanks to the profiles on the Overwatch website, a lot of the other pieces of media have yet to release, and because of that it means I'm not getting the full picture of each character. That said, I didn't want to wait around too long debating about it either, so I'm gonna dive in, but it just means I'm going to have to be very selective over who I review from this game and when I do it. Right now, no character is better for me to talk about than TRACER. She has had the most appearances in official media, and elements of her story have been documented enough for me to be able to talk about it at length. Before I do that though, since this is the first time we're visiting Overwatch and who dat, I'm going to have to give everybody a very quick backstory run through so you all know what's going on. Set in the not too distant future, robots have become the main workforce for humanity. The Omnica Corporation was the world's leading robotics manufacturer, building robots called the Omnics for the entire planet through their Omnium factories. Om nom nom. What made these Omnium factories so efficient was that they were installed with self-improving automated AI, so the humans could just leave these computerized factories to get on with their jobs, and should any problems arise, the AI would be built to deal with it itself. Pretty decent. What wasn't pretty decent though was that the Omnica company were found guilty of corporate fraud, and as a result they had to shut down all those wonderful factories. Of course, what surprised the hell out of everybody was when the Omnium factories woke themselves back up afterwards and began mass producing combat robots, engaging in a massive war with the world, and pretty much damn near took it over. Countries across the globe had trouble fighting back independently, so the United Nations formed an international task force called Overwatch with its intentions to battle the Omnic crisis together as one. After a long series of battles, Overwatch finally claimed victory. With the threat neutralized, Overwatch decided to stick around just in case anything else wanted to kick up a fuss, and so they moved on to combating terrorism and whatnot. Basically, think Team America. Fuck yeah. Of course, some people didn't like the freedoms that Overwatch had as an organization, and they came under fire from allegations of negligence, human rights abuses, and even corruption. Things started to head in a deeper downward spiral for Overwatch when a top secret division known as Blackwatch was uncovered within the group. Blackwatch apparently dealt with the shadier side of business, such as assassinations, kidnapping, and even torture. There was public outcry, and the UN were forced to investigate further, resulting in a series of major key events that led to Overwatch being shut down and disbanded for good. Fast track to the present day. Not our present day, but their present day. A raid on an abandoned Overwatch HQ had ex-Overwatch member Winston deeply concerned, since this group was specifically after data locations of all ex-members of Overwatch. Fearing something bad was about to go down, Winston initiated an agent recall, bringing Overwatch back from its dormancy, but since this was without permission of the UN, it effectively meant that Overwatch had now gone rogue, being condemned by most government bodies. So, where does that place TRACER in all of this backstory? Well, TRACER, real name Lena Oxton, was a pretty dandy fighter pilot. During Overwatch's heyday of battling the Omnics, she was drafted into Overwatch's experimental flight program and was specifically chosen to test a teleporting fighter jet called the Slipstream. Given the code name of TRACER, our little British lady took to the skies on her first flight in the jet when disaster struck. The teleportation matrix for the Slipstream bugged out and vanished, along with the jet itself and TRACER in the pilot seat. The officials at Overwatch presumed she had died in the incident, but then had the shit scared out of them when TRACER did her best Dr. Manhattan impersonation and reappeared out of thin air a few months later. It wasn't all happy days, however, since the incident had actually greatly affected TRACER's molecules, causing her to unsync from the general flow of time. In short, TRACER could no longer physically keep herself in the present day, and her body would often flow in and out of existence against her will. The doctors labelled the phenomenon as chronal disassociation and could find no cure for her until the big old furry Winston invented the chronal accelerator, allowing her body to finally stay seated in the present realm of existence. It also gave TRACER some new abilities, such as being able to control her own sense of time, allowing her to blink forward in a flash of light or rewind herself to an earlier moment. This new set of skills made TRACER one of Overwatch's most efficient agents in the field, and even after Overwatch was shut down, she was still considered by many to be an iconic hero. Now let's start talking about her visual design and see if I can avoid mentioning her ass. Visual design. TRACER has got an ass. Oh, for fuck's sake, man. With her earlier career as a pilot, it would seem TRACER's fashion sense remains rooted in the style of the aviator. The brown leather jacket with the soft fur interior is somewhat of a common item of clothing often associated with fighter pilots. The fact she still wears this type of clothing means although piloting fighter jets is not the main focus of her job anymore, she still holds the profession close to her heart and represents her connection to it with this jacket. She also pops the collar too because Usher told her it's the best defense against haters. The jacket then has the sleeves rolled up to make way for the gauntlets on her forearms. These braces actually act as her weapon holsters, and she keeps her twin pulse pistols in them when they are unequipped. Still focusing on the torso area is probably the most important item that TRACER wears, and that's her chronal accelerator. Emitting a soft electrical blue hue from its core, this device keeps TRACER from slipping in and out of existence, and it is technically her life support machine, so TRACER has to wear it at all times. Which begs the question if this thing is waterproof, because I want to know how she's taking a shower these days. Like, you know, I really want to know that. It's important. TRACER in a shower. The accelerator allows TRACER to shift backwards and forwards within her own existence of time, and she uses it to zip around the place at incredible speeds. Taking into account that she's gotta go fast, TRACER wears big bright orange goggles to keep anything from getting into her eyes while she's darting around, because nothing would screw up your flow more than gaining some wicked speed and then having a bloody insect get caught in your eye mid-jump between two ledges and a very dark pit. Keeping with that orange colour scheme, TRACER dons a skin-tight jumpsuit in a similar vibrant shade. It's a great use of orange too, dominating the most of TRACER's colour palette, but then neatly contrasting with the blue accents found on her accelerator device. To complete the outfit, TRACER is sporting a fine pair of futuristic running shoes, and I'm so glad they don't have that annoying split between the toes either. Faith from Mirror's Edge can keep that shit. It seems fitting for TRACER to wear running shoes too because, well, she runs a lot, innit? That's her whole thing. It would make more sense to wear this than boots or stilettos, you get me? Putting all of these things together and you get a very cool and very clear representation of a futuristic combatant built around speed while bringing out enough levels of personal flair to radiate from the character visually. It works well for her, making her image easily recognisable and iconic to the world she comes from. Also, nice ass. Personality. TRACER is easily the most cheerful and happy-go-lucky character in Overwatch's lineup. Expressions of joy are lightly sprinkled with tiny giggles. When she moves quickly during her blink maneuvers, she accompanies them with bursts of delight. Activating a rewind will make TRACER sarcastically ask the question if you ever get that feeling of deja vu.
Deja vu.
She's a joker, always ready to make a cheeky remark. A personal favourite of mine is if you eliminate a Reaper during a match, TRACER will do a vocal impersonation of him just to take the piss.
Death comes.
Unless the moment is entirely serious in tone, TRACER will always be the one having fun and making sure she's expressing it as much as she can. This is all presented to us in a stereotypical British Cockney voice, which is honestly bizarre for me because when I first heard TRACER talk, I thought it was a non-English voice actress overhamming it because they didn't know how to make a voice sound British. And it was much to my surprise when I found out the voice actress for TRACER is actually British herself, so screw me innit. But in hindsight, it mainly fell down to the fact that although I come from London, I've not personally heard a Cockney voice in years. The city is so multicultural that depending on what ends you live in, you will hear a wide range of different accents based on people's ethnic backgrounds. Even my own accent has been questioned by people who watch this show. Some people don't ever expect an accent like mine to be from London. So hearing such a strong Cockney accent again really threw me off, and initially I had to write up TRACER's voice as annoying. Then 5 minutes later I kind of fell in love with it. There are plenty of people online expressing their distastes for her accent, and I could have been one of them, but I changed my mind. Think about it, it's a bloody great accent for TRACER to have. You don't hear this a lot in video games. While it might be a really strong stereotypical accent to use for a character who comes from London, the alternative would have been the tip-top posh upper lip accent that is normally expected of British characters, and I don't think that would have suited TRACER. So hate it or love it, TRACER and her Cockney accent ain't going anywhere, and I'm totally cool with that. TRACER also happens to be incredibly expressive with her body language and movement. Every action is elaborate and fluid, showing personality with the simplest of gestures. Even if TRACER is not saying anything out loud, as rare as that is, her expressions will get the point across perfectly. Importance. As far as the storyline seems to be heading, TRACER is one of the main characters getting caught up in the central plot. During her time with Overwatch back in its golden age, she was considered to be one of the best agents for the organisation, in part thanks to her newfound abilities. TRACER was idolised, especially by young children, and they saw her as somewhat of a celebrity. She was the most sincerest part to Overwatch, and a complete contrast to the organisation's shadier side. Allegations could rain for days about the problems that Overwatch had, but the one thing they couldn't tarnish was the name of TRACER. After Overwatch was disbanded, TRACER became an adventurer and continued to fight the good fight alone, regardless of if it was against the law or not. Of course, when Winston initiated the agent recall, TRACER was one of the first people to respond and instantly came back to the group. TRACER sees Winston as a very close friend too. After all, he was the one responsible for technically saving TRACER's life by inventing the accelerator, so she is going to hold him in high regard. Teaming up with Winston, the pair of them went on a mission together to stop the evil Talon group from stealing the Doomfist gauntlet from an Overwatch museum. It was during this brief encounter with the Talon group did she engage in combat with the assassin Widowmaker, but Talon was able to escape before the fight concluded. TRACER's beef with Widowmaker continued later on when she arrived in London to assassinate the Shambali leader Afrika Tekata Mondata. Who is Mondata and the Shambali? They're a group of Omnic robots trying to reinstate peace between robotic and human relations. After the Omnic crisis, humans naturally became very cautious of robots. However, the Shambali believe peace and unity between the two sides can be restored. Through their teachings, they slowly began to help change some of the negative views against Omnics, and a balance was slowly beginning to reform. TRACER herself was a firm believer in Mondata's ideals. So, with Widowmaker successfully completing her mission in killing Mondata, and furthermore leaving TRACER badly injured, it's fair to say this assassin is not in Little Miss Oxton's good books. Should they meet again, the showdown will be greater than ever before. These key events keep TRACER closely connected to the main story unfolding with Overwatch, and is more than likely to end up painting her as the lead protagonist if things continue as they are. Conclusion. I can understand why people might find her annoying. She's a loudmouth, and those loud words are delivered with an accent that is not used all that often anymore. It can be a bit unfamiliar to people. I respect their points of view on that. Even I wasn't feeling the character all that much upon her initial introduction, but it didn't take long for her to win me over either. She's a lively little lady, the kind of girl you'd go to the pub with to grab a pint and then spend the rest of the evening drunk off your arse telling terrible jokes and craving a plate of fish and chips. TRACER is all about those good times. She celebrates life by living it as loudly and expressively as she can. I can't ever knock that because I admire that type of lifestyle myself. Coupled with a fitting visual design that she's able to rock entirely as her own, and TRACER is set to become iconic, not just to the world she comes from, but within ours too. According to Blizzard, TRACER was the first character they created, and she ended up becoming a firm favourite within the team over time. And I can see why. There's clearly a lot to love about TRACER once you start vibing with her certain style, and I'm vibing with her enough to give her my Valhalla emblem.